Moving into processing and understanding the consumer and understanding the products that you make and who is managing that risk. Again, looking at ready-to-eat products. Looking at the temperature from the perspective of 160, which is what they classify as the safe harbor temperatures. And there are some other requirements for food manufacturers in that regard, but for the most part, 160 is a temperature that they classify as a safe harbor. And that should reduce or eliminate the pathogens that would be in that product of public health concern. Also, if it's a product where you're making like a whipped pie or a whipped cake where you already have a pressed crust that is cookies or something or some type of crumb, and you're filling it with a filling that's already been processed and topping it with a ready whip, that would be something where it's going to be a product that is going to be ready to eat, but you don't have to process it yourself. You don't have to apply a temperature process to it. You would just assemble it. So you'd want to really look at your good hygiene practices, or in the manufacturing facility, you'd look at your good manufacturing practices. Not ready to eat products, as we talked about before, the consumer would be responsible for the food safety of that product. And if you don't know on the bottom there, that's a hairnet. So that doesn't really look like that without the lights off, but that's what it is. Final products, again, going to something like ready to serve if it's a cafeteria or if you're hot holding in a kitchen. Your minimum hot holding temperatures are 135. Cold holding, your maximum temperatures are 40 degrees. And cooling your products, the requirements from the food code, from the Food and Drug Administration, are 135 to 70 in 2 hours and 70 to 40 in 4 hours. Most states have adopted the food code into law. So if you're working in a restaurant or a cafeteria or something along those lines, those are the guidelines that most likely you will have to follow by public health inspector standards when they come in to review a kitchen or a cafeteria. Moving into sanitation, a lot of stainless steel is used, a lot of plastic, there's some rubber spatulas. Usually that type of equipment is pretty easily cleaned. A key component is design of the equipment. For example, slicers. Slicers are notorious for not being able to be cleaned very easily. You want to look at how often do you need to clean it. Let's say you're slicing some meat and then you don't use it for half the day. Do you just go and slice meat again, or do you clean it off? Again, elbow grease is a big factor in getting things clean. And your sanitizer requirements are roughly, for food contact surfaces, anywhere from 50 to 100 parts per million chlorine. Yeah?
When you say elbow grease, why is that? I mean, why not just put sanitizer on it and you're good to go?
Good question. I'll bump to the next slide, because we can get what's called a biofilm. You might want to shut the light off for this one. We can get what's called biofilm. On the first picture over here and the second picture, both of them are on a stainless steel food grade surface. And stainless steel food grade is extremely smooth. There are requirements for how smooth that surface has to be so it can get cleaned. The one on the left side, well, my left side is a Listeria monocytogenes, which is a pathogen, and that's in a very small groove on stainless. And what happens is, as you can see from here, they've got films and stuff that they build on the outside of their cells that they lock together. So if you're not actually mechanically scrubbing that apart, you can get what's called biofilms, and they'll run over it. I have another example here of the biofilms. The first one is staph, and the next one's Bacillus cereus, and they really do lock together like that. I'll go back to allergen control. And in regard to allergen control, for people who have allergies, you want to do separation. We have a very small manufacturing facility down in Florida, and they do a lot of catering. And so how they manage their allergen controls, they've got stainless steels in their kitchens, stainless steel tables in their kitchen, and they wrap the stainless steel tables with cellophane. And then in order to not have to do a full sanitization, if they switch from an allergen to a non-allergen, they pull off the cellophane and put new cellophane down to not have to really clean those surfaces extremely well. They just pull up the complete contamination. From the biofilms, we'll roll into just some general information on food microorganisms. Spoilage agents, looking at spoilage agents is generally just affecting the quality of the product. You get the green fuzzy things or the blue fuzzy things growing, or you open up a package of hard salami or some kind of pepperoni and you see that white film around the outside. That's a lactic acid bacteria. It's really not going to make you sick, but it just means that it's probably gone past its shelf life. You might not want to eat it, but I don't think it would make you sick. It's more of a quality indicator. And then pathogens, obviously these are the ones that we're concerned with. They're the ones that cause foodborne illnesses, which is where the organism infects you and you get sick from the actual organism. And foodborne infections. The infections are where the organism has grown to a level in the food and it has caused a toxin to produce. They have produced a toxin, and then that particular toxin is what makes you sick. So there's a difference in between how you get sick from what organism and how it acts in your body. Some general growth factors to keep in mind. The pH of the product or the water activity, and the water activity is the free moisture, the moisture that's not bound up in the carbohydrates or bound up in a starch. It's the free water. If you're to push something down and squeeze it, any of the juice that will come out, that's the free water. That's the water activity of a particular product. And the nutrient content, if you've got a slice of meat, that's very, very good nutrients for a microorganism. Unlike, a piece of bread where you're only going to get yeast and mold and you might not get too many pathogens on that particular product. Then we've got extrinsic factors, keeping things cold that need to stay cold. If you vacuum seal something, you can eliminate anything that would grow in the presence of oxygen. Other microorganisms also outcompete. So there are some things like if it's your fresh vegetables and so on, you might have so many organisms there that would not make you sick that you wouldn't necessarily get a pathogen on that particular product. I know we've had some recalls on lettuce, and so that's probably an exception in spinach, but for the most case, that's why raw vegetables are pretty much okay to eat. From a temperature perspective, those are the growth ranges. The growth range that we're probably most concerned with is the middle growth range. That's where most of your pathogens are. So when you think about processing and hot holding and cold holding, you want to stay above those temperatures or below those temperatures. Some quick food safety tips. The dates on the packages, whether it's a use by or best by or expired, like your milk products, things like that. Means that it depends on if you're looking at like a best by date, that's the date they want you to get it out of the store. So meaning like for particular, if you have a meat product that says sell by such and such a date and then it goes over into the pile that says reduced for quick sale, it's probably still okay to eat that product. They just have a sell by date, like they want it sold within 4 days from being processed and then otherwise consumed by 7 days. So if you buy something off the reduced for quick sale, you want to use it a little bit quicker than you would normally use it to get that rotation through to process it safely. Hand washing. I would say that you'd, do your normal, I'm sure you guys all know and have heard hand washing techniques. You sing Mary Had a Little Lamb, you sing ABCs, whatever it is, but at least 20 seconds. And again, it comes with the rubbing your hands together in the mechanical motion to break up anything that might be on your hands. And again, looking at avoiding cross-contamination. If you have in your kitchen a blue cutting board for meat or a red one, and then whatever you have green for vegetables, things like that, to keep them separated. Yep.
They used to say that wooden cutting boards were better than plastic because the wood has things that could be. Is that true or not true? Or?
Personally, I would say 6 to 1, half dozen of another, as long as you clean them well. Wood, you could possibly get more mold spores in the wood, which again probably would not necessarily be a health concern, but it may deteriorate the product faster. They have the new plastic or acrylic cutting boards are so resistant to scratches and knife cuts that they're a little easier to clean than the wood ones are.